Hello everyone. When we first look at Nataraja Guru's structural diagrams in books, they seem very simple. We see only a vertical line, a horizontal line, and a central point. At first glance, it looks like nothing more than a simple grid on graph paper. The vertical axis represents relationships like the conceptual and the virtual, essence and existence, ascent and descent, positive and negative tendencies. And the horizontal axis covers perceptual and actual aspects, left and right, confronting counterparts, mirror relationships, twist, and opposing orientations. Together, these two lines give us the basic grammar of the structure. It can expand into a double conical form, reaching down toward the alpha pole below and up towards the omega pole above. This is what the Guru calls the psychostatic structure. It shows us the field in a stable state easily drawn on a flat sheet of paper. Once we move beyond this basic alphabet, the structure becomes much more richer. The simple cross gains depth. We enter another dimension that the Guru calls psychodynamics as opposed to mere psychostatics. Psychodynamics asks much more of us. What happens inside the structural field? Where is the tension? In which direction does it move? How does one tendency balance another? How does a negative tendency transform into a positive movement, etc.? When we work with texts like Saundarya Lahari, the requirements become even more subtle and complex. We are no longer dealing only with lines and points. We have to see color, hue, saturation, levels of brightness, states of consciousness, mythological imagery, lotuses, centers, reciprocal movements, cancellation, and finally, the bringing together of all these moving factors into a unitive value. Nataraja Guru's example of the bow and arrow brings this search alive. The bowstring is pulled back towards the alpha side, creating a negative alpha directed tension. And when that tension is released, the arrow shoots in the opposite direction toward omega, etc. Suddenly, a static diagram becomes dynamic. There is tension, release, direction, transformation, and movement. It becomes very hard for a flat two-dimensional drawing to show all these relationships at the same time. This is where a three-dimensional interactive psychodynamic model becomes essential. In psychodynamics, we are not stuck looking at the structure from one fixed angle. We can rotate it, we can move around it, we can look from above, from below, across the horizontal plane or along the vertical axis. And we can isolate individual structural layers. We can watch reciprocal circulation. We can observe the figure eight movement. We can trace the six cross sectional centers, the chakras, and we can watch alpha directed tension turn into omega directed movement, etc. And eventually, we can show many different structural changes without having to redraw the diagram every time. In fact, Nataraja Guru was deeply interested in making a film based on the structures of the Saundarya Lahari, and even founded the Gurukula Film and TV Research Institute in Bangalore. However, his passing left that work unfinished. Yet, we would say a film only shows us the viewpoint chosen by the director. On the contrary, an interactive model gives, gives that freedom to the seeker. We can enter the structure and explore it directly. With virtual reality, this experience becomes even more profound. Using a VR headset, we can step inside the structural field and feel the structural field, travel along the vertical parameter, cross the horizontal field, approach the bindusthāna, and move through different sectional levels. However, one important word of caution must remain. This model is not literal anatomy. It is not a physical map of the universe, and it is not a scientific measurement of consciousness. It is a structural study model, a visual and interactive guide for understanding the relationships Nataraja Guru expressed through geometry, philosophy, poetry, symbolism, and contemplative structural language. So, what we are presenting today is only a first step. This current model is still simple compared to what this structural methodology could eventually become. But the direction is clear. We are moving from the basic alphabet of structuralism to its high-end geometry, from geometry to its grammar, from grammar to its dynamics, and eventually toward a fully interactive structural language on consciousness. Thank you.